Hey everybody, welcome back to Comix Rant. I am your host, Arvin Bautista. This is episode 17 and part 3 of my Snyder Cut Love series. In Comix Rant, I usually talk about comics that I like, and then the next half of the episode usually is about my process, and I talk about how I do things or what's going through my mind when I'm doing them. But for this series, we're going to talk about the comic books that I feel influenced the Snyder Cut. I love the movie a lot. So I kind of got into this whole thing where I started drawing fan art for it. And so the second half of this series will showcase one of the fan art pieces that I did. Let's get into the show, and I hope you enjoy it. So for this week, we're going to talk about Geoff Johns, Jim Lee, and Scott Williams' run on Justice League for the New 52. I actually have all the individual issues for the first arc and more. I really actually was super excited when the New 52 launched, just like everybody else. I still look at this fondly. I love Jim Lee. And it's amazing that he's still able to pump this out. He took a break in between after this arc, but he was able to really push it through, Like, he is already like a co-publisher? No. Or it was a higher capacity, maybe even... Yeah, he was a pretty high capacity at the time that New 52 was coming out. And, he still was able to take time and do this arc, which was very important. That's why he put himself on there, because anything Jim Lee will still sell, and that's exactly what DC needed to make everybody excited about their comics again. And for a while they were actually on top, and they sold more than Marvel. It wasn't very long and the New 52 kind of started crashing and burning later on, maybe even midway through its life, or maybe earlier than that. But anyway, it was super exciting. I was totally thrown back into when I was collecting and was a teen, and I looked forward every week to getting this comic, and it delivers in high entertainment value. Look at that, Batman double page spread, just fun, Starts off with a bang, and it's just all action, sound effects, like coloring effects, all sorts of stuff. They just threw everything they had in here to make sure you had a good time. It's like a giant Hollywood blockbuster movie. And I see a few parallels that this run has that shows up in Zack Snyder's Justice League. As far as story-wise and plot goes, I guess the basic plot, it shares many similarities to Zack Snyder's Justice League, but only because it's about the Justice League coming together and fighting an invading army that Darkseid is running, right? And the movie does that, except a lot of the details are very different. And I feel like the other two books that I talked about, Injustice and Earth 2, have a few more similarities in their story or characterization or where things would have fallen more so than this. But one of the things, interestingly enough, that this arc has that shows up in Zack Snyder's Justice League are the Cyborg story bits. And it's a shame, because once Joss Whedon came in there to redo it, a lot of his stuff disappeared. So in here, Batman is actually tracking down mother boxes. Whereas in the Snyder Cut, his motivation was very different, since he was trying to honor Superman and that promise to bring and to make a team of superpowered people or special people like he was, right? Because instead of fighting against them like he did with Superman, he was gonna do better. I did like how the design for the mother box here is a cube, whereas I think in the original Jack Kirby design it was more like a phone. This was cool. It's a lot bigger in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but a lot of the design sense kind of stays there. Okay, so here's the first sequence in the first issue that made it into Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's Cyborg Victor Stone playing football, winning, being the hero, celebrating, and then looking up and seeing that his dad's not there. This is a beautiful scene in Zack Snyder's Justice League. It just looks great. It's like in this nice slow-mo. It looks even more stunning in black and white, I feel. And it tells this story. So it tells a lot of his... shows you the game, and then in between he edits in backstory on his mother and his father, and his disappointments, or trying to live up to the love of his parents, really, to earn it, right? So that's in the first issue, and then in here, I think there's more Cyborg stuff that is also similar to the movie. As their tension, his tension with his dad, except I think his dad is actually a lot nicer in the Snyder Cut than he is in this comic. His dad's kind of a jerky. Kind of in his own little world. But he still loves his son, so that is similar. And then there's also a sequence here where the Superman, the Flash get into it. Flash is a whole lot more cocky here and more confident than in the Snyder Cut, and they kind of get into it, but Superman actually taps him. So it was kind of nice in the Snyder Cut where they showed you like that the Flash actually is faster than Superman, but he's just not experienced yet at that point. And in here, they make it so that Cyborg's storyline and his origin are happening at the same time that the invasion is going on. In the Snyder Cut, it's a car accident. This scene actually, this ice cream scene specifically, gets a little nod in Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman. This whole stuff with the U.S. government does not really exist in the Snyder Cut. The parademons are abducting people, so similar as the Snyder Cut. Big awesome fight. This art is just so cool. I mean, come on. It's Jim Lee. Yeah, Wonder Woman coming in. Fantastic. With sword, chopping fools up. And it ends up with Aquaman. Oop. I'm going over here a little bit. But Aquaman shows up and he's stabbing parademons, just like he gets stabby in the Snyder Cut, which is also awesome. I liked how the technology that Cyborg uses was from Apocalypse or New Gods technology. It was from a mother box. And so in this arc, he sees things, much like in the Snyder Cut, where he kind of taps into the mother box technology and senses things, or, will be able to kind of know when something is amiss. And actually, it's also a key to how this arc resolves towards the end, as well as the Zack Snyder Cut. And we'll get to that in a little bit. In this issue, I think, they're making these towers that Darkseid utilizes for his invasion. And here's Stabby Aquaman, which is awesome. Jason Momoa's Aquaman is like a cross between Peter David and the New 52 Aquaman. And let's see. So at the end of this, Darkseid appears. Ooh, look at this side splash. I don't know what's going on here, but it's cool, right? Pin-up style. So Darkseid shows up in this arc. He doesn't, to invade. So they actually get down to it and start fighting. But in the Snyder Cut, that's reserved for a later battle. Superman gets jacked up. Green Lantern gets beat down, so he doesn't even show up in the Snyder Cut, unfortunately. But we did get Martian Manhunter, so it's okay. So I think in the later Snyder movies, they were supposed to go to Apocalypse. And this is kind of like, they don't really go in there to finish the fight, but I think it's kind of cool that they would set it in Apocalypse for the future Snyder Cut movies. And the last issue number 6, more cyborg fun. Oh, look at that. I mean, it's just fun. These double page splashes that Jim Lee does. You know, he still has it. You know, he still got it. Scott, I don't think I'll ever get used to anybody else inking him unless it's Scott Williams, because Scott Williams has been inking him for ages. But Steppenwolf is actually here. I think I actually missed that the first time I read this arc. But Steppenwolf is there. Desaad is there. Desaad looks pretty freaky in the Snyder Cut, and you know, I kind of like how Jim Lee made him look a little bit more scary here from the original design. They're kind of pushing this like demon and gods thing, and Superman is getting jacked up. Superman is getting jacked up. Wonder Woman is having a great old time beating up Darkseid. Kind of reminds me of that scene in Batman vs Superman when she gives you a little smile after she, I think, gets punched by Doomsday, which is hardcore. Anyway, so this Superman gets his Supermaniness due. He gets his own double page spread. But here, so they're trying to close this boom tube, and because of Cyborg's connection to the boom tubes, he is key into sending Darkseid back. And I like that in Zack Snyder's Justice League, where he becomes very important to the story, just like the Flash became important in there too. But it's his connection to the mother boxes that ends it here and ends it in Zack Snyder's Justice League. And that was the main connection that I could see in this arc to Zack Snyder's Justice League movie. Which is kind of strange that they cut a lot of that out. Because if anything, that was the main thing that I could connect from this run. In any case, I think this arc was a good big bang of a start for the New 52. I was certainly very excited. I'm sure everybody else was as well. But I don't think it's Geoff Johns' best story arc in his run of Justice League. His best, I feel, starts like somewhere around the Amazo storyline. So if you don't know anything about the New 52 Geoff Johns run, I recommend you read this just so you can get started. But his best stuff is actually towards the end. And he goes from a cool like reworking of the Amazo villain, if I can say that right, and the Amazo villain, and then he leads into like the Darkseid War, which is awesome and epic and huge. I highly recommend you guys trying to read that. But for today, that is what I see links this book to the Zack Snyder Justice League movie. Let's go to the drawing portion, and I'll see you guys in a bit. For today's drawing, it's the scene in the movie where, well, hopefully you watched it already, but I'm going to spoil it for you, where the Flash reverses time. And, you know, he does this all the time. If you watch the TV show, if you read the comics, he seems to do this all the time. But because it just so happens it's Zack Snyder's vision. He depicts it really awesome. It's just visually stunning. That's at the very least. If you don't like Zack Snyder's work, I think the main takeaway from all of his films is that it's beautiful. Like, the stuff looks great on frame, and the way that he did this to depict time travel in this way, where it's all just visual and there's no real, not much explanation or talking about it. He just kind of runs in slow motion, and everything starts to reform after the mother box had pretty much obliterated the entire planet. So he runs back in time, and he's in the Speed Force, and the music kicks in from Hans Zimmer, and it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite scenes. I'm actually not a giant Flash fan. Not until the TV series came out, the one with Grant Gustin. So that's a recent thing. I've read Flash comics. He was cool, but I never really read through the Mark Waid run, which was one of the most popular runs. I never had any of that background with the Flash. It was just, he was just a guy that ran fast and he raced Superman. I'm a Superman fan, so that's all I knew him for. I read some Wally West stuff, not much. And I read the Geoff Johns Rebirth, or not Rebirth, arc. It's kind of, I think it was maybe a Rebirth arc before the main DC line of comics came out with the same name. And I enjoyed Flashpoint. That was cool. I loved the animated movie. But every scene of the Flash in Zack Snyder's Justice League is just so good. It's like, usually anytime the Flash shows up, it was just awesome. There's another drawing I'll do later on with Iris and how they meet, and that's just fantastic. To depict his powers in this way, it just looks super cool. And the more I drew this drawing, the more I got to appreciate why people love the character. Even from before then, like his the way his to depict speed is always fun, right? In comics, like, it's always like this great problem to try to figure out, and a lot of great artists have done it. And I love looking at it. So to get a chance to actually draw this scene was super fun. So the way I compose this is actually more vertical than how I've been doing the first few drawings. Well, or the last drawing, which was the Amazon, which was widescreen, and I pretty much took the composition from the movie to start off from. And this one, there is a frame that's like this. I think I exaggerated a lot more, but it is this gesture that he's doing, like when he's running in the movie, that I picked to draw. And it was fun to try to push the perspective and use, perspective tools in Procreate to really get this going. I mean, it's super distorted, so I don't know if people like this kind of look, but I got into it, and it was just super fun trying to do this like fake fish eye-ish camera angle. But this is totally made up in my head from what my impression was of that scene. And I'd have it on, and I'd have it playing over and over. I'd rewind and watch it and listen to it, and it was great. I'd have the Hans Zimmer track going, which I think is at the speed of force. Is that right? At the speed of force was the name of the track. Beautiful music, and just great scene for the character too. Like, very defining, so you can kind of wrap your mind around who this character is and what makes him a hero. And it's good. Again, like a scene that got taken out, but it's just so cool. Like, why take this one out? It was just so good of a scene, like such a showstopper of a scene, and kind of made this character, the Flash, really awesome. For anybody who hasn't had any kind of experience with the Flash, this was such a seller, such a great seller of a scene, I thought. And you can see, because I'm drawing this as one of the pieces. Speed lines are super fun to do, and I just like doing feathering, and it's very loose in Procreate. Like, I don't have to be too tight. I can erase the feathering. I can go back in and kind of like really nitpick some of it. But part of the fun of the feathering technique here is that you kind of have to lay it down fast to get the look that I'm trying to go for. I love drawing all these lightning bolts around him. I loved the color palette that was in the movie, so it's kind of what I'm pushing off of. I make it more saturated and louder, brighter. But I do love the color palette in that scene in the movie. And all this depicting time reversing, I thought was just so great. In the scene prior to this, when Flash shows up and meets Iris for the first time, he stops time. He doesn't necessarily reverse it, but you could, it was almost like a hint of like what he could do, foreshadowing of what's going to happen. And it's a super fun scene. He pretty much runs so fast he stops time or slows it down a lot, and saves Iris. And in this scene, this is the first time you actually see time reversing. And he also mentions that when he does that, physics gets wonky, so he doesn't do it a lot. But this was like a moment where the Justice League had actually failed. The mother box exploded, and the bad guys pretty much won for that one split second. Superman got evaporated into dust, disintegrated into dust, which is also awesome. As this scene plays out towards the end, everything reforms. So you kind of see like Superman's skeleton reform and his flesh get back on his body as Flash is reversing time. It's just very cool. It's very satisfying time reversal scene, right? Like, if you guys have seen Tenet, and there's like that the way Nolan will show time reversing. It's cool. People walking backwards, all that kind of stuff. This is like way up, superheroized, like epic scale, like bone matter reforming into with muscles going on top. It's just super cool. And I didn't, first time I watched the Zack Snyder cut, I didn't really know how the movie was going to play out, right? Like, people would share some clips and so on, but I didn't know if he was going to go full on injustice in this movie, and it would end on this like downbeat cliffhanger, like Darkseid does win and he gets the anti-life equation. Earth is destroyed. To be continued. See you guys. It'll never get made because this is it. So, I was kind of bracing myself like, ooh, this is not going to go good with audiences because they're not going to get an answer if this movie ends on a down, right? Which is fine, because that's what the series was supposed to do. So when he's traveling back in time, I didn't think it was I thought he was just gonna zoom in, and that's when we're gonna see him in BVS, and he's gonna warn Bruce Wayne, and then that reality disappears, and then we're back to BVS timeline. But no, it actually goes all the way, and he reverses time just a few seconds, so that he can get Cyborg to actually pull it off, hack the mother box, which is a cool concept, I thought. And save the day, basically, with Superman, of course. A great scene. Anyway, back to the drawing. I started figuring out how to do these, how to make things underlit a little bit and kind of bring in some of the background color. So like on his armor, you see like some of the shine, and the color of the lightning is on his armor. And it works out because of the way I'm doing simple color theory, where it's complementary colors, red and green. It kind of makes the character, the figure that I'm drawing, stand out a little bit more, because then I can kind of cheat with these light reflections on him. And it's just really a line. It's not anything. I'm not trying to blend it in or make like a fade or anything like that, like anything fancy like other people love to do, and it looks great. It's just marks, it's just a line. That's it. And the sparks were super fun. I drew these kind of McFarlane lightning strands coming out of the main bolts. That was kind of fun. That was the sketch. These are the finished inks for the drawing. I kind of faded out the grays, and this is the final color. The videos don't usually capture it. The time-lapse videos don't capture it great. Oh, if you have 3D glasses, put them on now. So I kind of messed around with this app, and I was able to make it more 3D. And here's a close-up of the final drawing. You can see the sparks coming out of his body, which is in the movie, which moves so great. So I wanted to capture that in the drawing. And there's the anti-life Earth exploding, basically. And this is another shot of the final drawing. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really love drawing this drawing. Got super into it. I will see you guys next week on another episode of Comix Rant.